Welcome to the regularly scheduled public meeting of January 20th, 2025 of the Township Council of the Township of Washington. Adequate notice of the meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by the Township Clerk to at least 2 newspapers in December, and this meeting has been posted on the Township Bulletin Board, electronic message board, WCTV, and on the Township website. Please notify the municipal clerk for any disability requirements necessary for attendance at Township Council meetings. The fire exits are located through the double doors to your right and through the door on your left. Please silence all cell phones. If you are unable to attend the council meeting in person and would like a topic to be addressed at a council meeting, please send an email to the Township of Washington - contact all council members at once, twpofwashington.us. Could everyone please stand for a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilman Casio.
Here.
Councilman Sears.
Here.
Councilman Hellman.
Here.
Councilwoman Velez.
Here.
President DeSena.
Here. Let the record reflect also in attendance Mayor Peter Calamari, Township Administrator Mark DiCarlo, Township Attorney Siobhan Bailey, and Township Clerk Susan Witkowski. Payment of bills, resolution number 25-101, authorized payment of bills January 1st, 2025 to January 16th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Good. Roll call.
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilman Hellman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez.
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. PSA for January 20th, 2025. Happy Martin Luther King Day and happy Inauguration Day. The Township of Washington has added the Recycling Coach app to our website on the Department of Public Works page. Please visit Recycle Coach. Recycle Coach is an address-based app that educates residents on how to recycle materials appropriately for their area. By downloading the Recycle Coach app, you will be able to obtain your curbside collection schedule. Debris bulk pickup will resume the week of April 7th. Call for special pickups, 201-664-4404, option number 4. Friday was the last day for Christmas tree pickup. Recycling reminder, Northwest South Zone will be January 22nd, and the Northeast Zone will be January 29th. Quarter 1 property taxes are due February 1st with the grace period to February 10th, 2025. Primary election date change. Please note that the primary election will now be held Tuesday, June 10th. All voting takes place at town halls. Hours are 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. The 2025 annual license renewals were mailed out in late December. There is a $5 late fee which begins on February 1st. The Township Council hereby soliciting resumes and/or letters of interest qualifications from Township residents to be appointed to the Zoning Board of Adjustment for the following positions: 1 regular member and 2 alternate positions. Please see website under Government tab section for more detail on the Forms tab for application. The Township of Washington has entered into a shared service agreement with the Saddle River Municipal Court. The Township of Washington Municipal Court office is now located at the Borough of Saddle River, 100 East Allendale Road, Saddle River, New Jersey. All phone calls made to the Township of Washington Municipal Court, will be forwarded directly to the Saddle River Municipal Court office. The Kiwanis Club of the Pascack Valley meets on the second Wednesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. at the Westwood Community Center. Please contact Paul Ralph Corduli at 516-581-8319 or pascackvalleykiwanis@gmail.com. The Township will be holding its 3rd annual Spring into Wellness Family 5K Run Walk and Health Fair on Saturday, May 3rd. Registration is now open. Please visit the Township website and social media for more information. The Washington Township Baseball Softball registration is now open and can be found on the www.wtbbsb.org website. Our next council meeting will be held on Monday, February 3rd, 2025. Ordinance 25-02 under discussion. An ordinance to regulate the parking and storage of boats, boat trailers, commercial vehicles, and recreational vehicles in residential districts. Chief John Calamari and Mr. Leiden from Burgess Associates will come up and present at this time. Guess you want to sit down at the table.
Just so you both know, there's a copy of the ordinance that was placed in front of the council.
Okay.
Okay.
How are you?
Good evening, Keith. Good evening, Mr. Lyons.
Good evening.
So we're here to discuss ordinance number 25-02, an ordinance to regulate the parking and storage of boats, boat trailers, commercial vehicles, and recreational vehicles in residential districts.
Okay, maybe I'll go first if it's okay with the chief.
Please
I
do.
always defer to somebody.
He has a gun, so I agree with you.
Exactly. So,
I agree.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Back in 2019, the planning board came up with a re-examination report and adopted it towards the end of the year. And as recommendations in that re-examination report, there were a number of ordinances they recommended be changed and updated, revised. Then COVID hit and nothing much happened. For about the last year or so, I've been working, well, first David Novak from our office and then myself have been working with the planning board on this draft ordinance that's before you tonight. One of the reasons it took as long as it did was it kept getting a little bit larger. First, we were just looking at commercial vehicles. Then someone suggested, and I don't remember if it came from this body or from the planning board, that maybe we should be looking at RVs and recreation trailers. And then I think it came to this board and this body, and someone suggested we should look at harmonizing the ordinance with Chapter 330, which is an ordinance you have on the books. And I think we've done that. And then someone suggested, it's a good ordinance, but we don't deal with boats. So let's deal with boats. So it has grown for a little bit. I'm sure you thought this ordinance would have been before you beforehand. But anyway, what it does is it establishes, and this took a bit of time with the planning board, instead of regulating trucks by weight, it seeks to regulate trucks by outside dimensions, length, height, and width. It also keeps a very simple definition of commercial vehicle. We were talking about lettering, we were talking about number of wheels. It basically says if New Jersey DMV calls it a truck, it's a commercial truck, it's a commercial truck. And then we added that to neighboring states and we said, what the heck, if any DMV counts it as a commercial vehicle, it's a commercial vehicle. So basically, what we wanted to do was allow trucks, one of a certain size and its associated trailer, but this trailer had to be enclosed. And I say we, I'm really talking on behalf of the planning board, but I don't want to misquote them. Could be on a property, but we didn't want it to be out in the street. We didn't want it to be blocking driveways. So there is some, and we're talking about residential zones, so there is some screening requirements, either fencing or landscaping. And as part of that, we also allowed for RVs or travel trailers with their associated trailer behind them. The RVs, because they seem to change a bit and there's quite a diversity of sizes, we don't propose to regulate the sizes of RVs. And if it's a trailer, it's one size. If it's a vehicle with the engine, it's another size. So we just said one RV per property and the associated trailer that many of them now have. And again, they had to be parked or stored in the same paved driveway, and they had to be screened either with vegetation or fencing similar to the commercial vehicles. And then, and we also said you can't live in a motorhome. No living in a motorhome. It's not a dwelling, it's simply a place to store it at your dwelling. And then lastly, we added boats. This is one that I will say the planning board didn't spend a lot of time discussing length. The length was 18 feet. Quite frankly, I came up with that. It allows one boat to be stored on a property. I mean, we do have Washington Lake. It has to be in the rear yard. And we allow trailers that would hold an 18-foot long boat. And then we exempted from any regulations any human-powered boat, such as a rowboat, sailboat, paddle boat, so things of that nature. So the planning board did spend quite a bit of time on it. We did go back and forth on it. I think they're fairly comfortable with this ordinance. In fact, they've endorsed it twice, once without the commercial vehicles, once without the boats and once with the boats. So I think that's my 5 minutes of fame. And I don't know if you want to hear from the the chief first, or if you have any questions for me that you'd like to
Before
address.
we listen to the chief, and then we'll ask questions of both, if that's okay.
Okay.
I take no position for or against the ordinance. It's more of a property maintenance type ordinance, which generally the police department does not enforce. The code enforcement official handles those matters. With regard to the number of complaints we receive directly and then forward. I just received this afternoon, so I would have to do some research if if the governing body would like me to do some research.
I'd like to know how many complaints you do get before we pass this,
Absolutely.
if everybody's okay with that.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know, is the chief correct? Is the property maintenance officer the person that would enforce this ordinance?
He is correct, yeah. That's, I'd like to double check that.
Is that in the ordinance, or is that, we have to define that?
We can add that for sure.
Well, this would be part of the zoning ordinance, so it would be a code enforcement.
Oh,
Okay,
right,
okay.
right.
As
Thank
opposed to
you.
existing chapter 330.
Thank you, Ms. Lai, that's correct. Okay.
Enforcement.
We go back, I mean, chief, how hard is it to go back? Can we go back a couple years to see what
Yeah, you
is
let
it
me know.
easy to do, or?
You let me know. Yeah, I can go back 10 or 15 years.
I don't need that far.
Yeah. I'm saying
Five, I'm okay with 5. Can we
5
go back
years.
to the last 5 on
Yep.
boat complaints, commercial vehicle complaints, and all that, and all the
Yes. Yeah,
recreational vehicle complaints?
that's very easy to do.
Mr. Sears, do you have any?
Oh, yeah, just a quick question. You stated that the boat should be stored in the rear of the house?
Rear of the property, correct.
Rear of the, what happens if you don't have access to the rear?
Well, it does require that it be placed on a paved driveway, as cars in your community have to be. So then someone would either not be allowed to have a boat on the property, or they would need to seek Board of Adjustment approval for a variance. And that might be a basis for a hardship, but there's no access to the rear of the property. I imagine that's fairly rare in the township, but I don't know.
No, that's not rear.
Okay.
Matt?
Yes,
Can I-
please.
Okay. Yeah, I have a couple of questions with the boat ordinance itself, and I'll let you know, I own a boat, but it's not here. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to know where we came up with the length of 18 feet for this ordinance.
That was me.
That was you, okay? And how did you determine 18 feet was a good or proper length for enforcing?
First thing I did was I realized it was for storage in residential zones. So that suggests it should be on the relatively on the smaller side. And then quite frankly, I looked at different manufacturers and saw that an 18-foot boat, in my estimation, was a decent sized boat.
Okay,
And that it was small enough to fit into a residential community as opposed to, let's say, a 45-foot cabin cruiser.
okay. Well, yeah, a 45-foot boat would be difficult to definitely store. But, an 18-foot boat is not as large as you think it is. Does that 18-foot boat in length include the motor? The outdoor motor?
It's the boat,
Just the boat itself?
just the boat itself.
So if I had an 18-foot craft and it had a 3-foot extension and then an outboard motor, which is another 3 feet, it would exceed that 18 feet. Would that qualify, or that eliminate it from being parked on a particular piece of property?
I believe, I'm not, the boat, the motor would not count
Okay.
towards the length. I didn't know about an extension.
Yeah, they have
So-
brackets that extend the motor out past the actual boat itself. It's not actually part of the boat,
Oh, then it wouldn't
Okay.
count.
then it wouldn't count. Okay.
Registered hull length, I believe, is what.
Just the whole.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't mean to jump in. I'm familiar with it myself. It's registered hull length.
Okay. Question number 2. Where in the ordinance does it say about the backyard? Because I just briefly looked over this and I didn't see it.
If you change, flip over to page 2,
Mm-hmm.
large, uppercase C,
Mm-hmm.
one boat with a length of 18 feet, every boat parked in a residential district shall be screened with fencing or dense year-round,
The rear yard is the top paragraph,
Is it the top paragraph?
the
Because I missed it.
last sentence.
Oh, yes, I
Yeah,
do
the
see it.
last
Yes,
sentence.
thank you very
Rear
much.
yard of a residential
Okay.
lot.
I don't know if anyone realized how difficult it might be in getting a boat navigating a boat, parking a boat, backing it into a rear yard with our setbacks and our side yards. That's kind of a difficult task to accomplish. And I don't see why there would be a problem putting on a side yard if it's going to be screened anyway. So that's.
Can I just interrupt 1 second?
Sure.
Maybe I'm reading this wrong, or maybe we need to clarify or write it clearer, but is that specific? So human-powered boats without engines or motors, such as and including robo-paddle, pedal, etc., are permitted to be stored in the rear yard. I don't think they're saying it. The boat has to be in the rear yard, the motorboat. I think they're saying
Okay.
you can store, such as if you're on the lake, you could put your canoe
In the rear
in the
yard.
back.
I was just going off what he said about rear yards.
Yeah.
So that's how maybe I misinterpreted.
I
Well, that's how
I don't think it
interpret
says, I don't think it says anything about the boat trailer being in the rear yard.
Okay.
And we may have to look at that.
Okay.
So I hope that's not the case, because you ever tried to back in a boat or pull it out, very difficult to do with limited space. And then I guess the other issue is it seems like it's, you're penalizing a boat owner because you are allowing, I lost my train of thought.
The RV?
The RV, okay, you're not limiting the RV by length, but you're limiting the boat by length. So, to me, they're both recreational vehicles. I'd like to know that's not, to me, that's not equal. If I choose to have a watercraft and I want to put it on, and my joy is being on the water as opposed to driving to Arizona, I wish I had had that same concession made. And that's an issue I have.
I think the way this ordinance, first of all, let me address your first point. If the mayor and council are of the opinion that the side yards would be an appropriate place to store a boat, I think the simplest thing to do would be to put a clause in here saying they shall be stored in a side or rear yard. So that would
Okay.
be no confusion about that. So let me make that suggestion.
But what if you only have just a front driveway, because it needs to be paved? If
I
you
don't think they said paving for the trailer, right? That's
That's right.
not required. You mentioned something about no pavement for the trailer, for the boat trailer?
You would need waffle boards to put alongside of the house. If I'm not correct, I believe that's somewhere in the code.
It has to be some type of surface other than grass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there should be those waffle
Yeah.
boards.
It could be clamshells or whatever, macadam, loose fill, rock fill.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for the entire planning board, but my view is that all three of these, whether it be commercial, RV, or boat, were allowed to be stored in the front yard on a paved surface, as long as it fit within the parameters. I think there was a question of side yard when we talked about how we're defining the side yard. Does it start at the front corner or the back corner?
So Mike, they're just talking, the board is just contemplating side yard issues. Is that correct?
Or front yard.
I don't even think they're contemplating side yard issues. I mean, in my opinion, my understanding, if you have a paved side yard, you could put the boat there, or the RV, or the commercial vehicle. If you have a paved driveway, double wide or however wide it is, you could put those vehicles on that.
Okay.
We're allowing for the vehicles, we're regulating the size of the vehicles and then instructing where they can be placed.
So by this ordinance, are we eliminating the front yard, Mr. Lyden,
For storage, yes,
for storage?
storage.
So,
That's all some people.
so commercial vehicles will no longer be allowed to park in the front yard or the front driveway
Yes,
if this is adopted.
yes, correct. But we are going to amend it as per the councilman's suggestion to specifically state side or rear yard would be allowed.
So what if it's a regular, like say somebody just has a Ford Fusion commercial vehicle or a regular pickup truck?
A regular pickup truck is a pretty common vehicle. It would not be regulated under this.
But it's got a commercial vehicle tag according to this, so
Well,
it would
doesn't
be
have-
regulated.
It wouldn't have to have one.
Well, if I own a business in the state of New Jersey, right, the DMV does say, if you own a business, you need to have a commercial plate on it.
Then it would, I don't think it would meet the standard for length, width, and height.
Well, here it just says a commercial vehicle is a vehicle registered with New Jersey, New York, or any state motor vehicle commission or similar agency as a commercial vehicle. So if I have a Ford Fusion that, I'm making fun of the small Ford Fusion, and it's got commercial plates on it because it's got my company's letter on the side, whatever it may be, XYZ widgets, I'm no longer allowed to park that in my front driveway now. I have to park it on the side.
Well,
Or if I have a regular size, not an obscenely large, like box cargo van or anything, but a regular pickup truck that's got my company XYZ widgets on the side of it, but I have commercial plates. But it's a normal pickup truck that everybody else has in their driveway, just that mine happens to have lettering on the side. I now have to put that on the side?
no, and lettering doesn't affect this ordinance at all.
Okay.
So if you have your example of an F-150, let's say a Ford Fusion, is identical to mine, except you have some lettering on it, this ordinance would not see the lettering. And under section 3 on page 2, under F, a commercial vehicle shall not exceed 7 feet in width, shall be no higher than 8 feet, and shall not exceed 20 feet in overall length. And I can assure you, both a Ford Fusion and a F-150 are less than those dimensions. So
Okay.
you'd still be able to park your F-150, or if it's a Ram, your comparable Ram in the front yard on the driveway.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Council President, do you mind if I
Yeah.
expand on your question? Council President's example, but taking it the other way. What if someone's taking
Could you
advantage?
speak up? Can't hear you down here.
Put your microphone on.
I guess ultimately what I'm going to request or suggest or recommend is maybe the expansion of the definition on commercial vehicles. Because what if someone takes advantage of it in the opposite way? They have all the lettering in the world. Essentially, it's a commercial vehicle, but doesn't have the commercial registration. Is that going to lead to taking advantage of the ordinance?
Well, I think the planning, and I don't want to talk for the planning board necessarily, but my recollection of the planning board was size more than aesthetics, except when it came to the trailer. And I don't know if you noticed yet, but if you're gonna go a truck and a trailer, let's say for a gutter repair business, the trailer has to be enclosed as opposed to open body trailer. But even that, they didn't want to put restrictions on lettering, it was more size. And with the utility trailer, it was limited in size by having only one axle.
But what if the resident has two of the same exact vehicles, but one is registered and one's not? Now they have two vehicles and they have a built-in exemption. That's just the way I'm looking at it. Just, again, it's just something to think about.
You would need to exceed the height, the dimensions in the ordinance, and it would also need to have a commercial registration. So if someone had the biggest Dodge Ram truck there is for their personal use, they would not have anything to do with this ordinance. This ordinance would have nothing to do with them, because it doesn't affect private vehicles, privately owned, it only affects commercial vehicles.
Well, what I'm concerned with is people are using Sprinter vans now as personal vehicles. Right? A Sprinter van is 10 feet high by, it's massive, right? It's a work truck that now we've made into a personal vehicle,
They would be exempt from this ordinance.
But what if they, see, that's the problem, is what if they lettered it but used it as their personal vehicle, then it's gonna be a problem. I agree with you, Mr. DeCarlo. I think you're on the right path.
Would it hurt to expand the definition to include? Because what I'm thinking is if someone is going to park a commercial vehicle and it has commercial plates and it fits into this where they're allowed one on the property, but then they go and duplicate that exact vehicle, but don't just have personal license plates on it. They have a built-in exception. Well, no, I only have a registered vehicle.
But would that be
I don't know.
problem? Let's assume instead of going and getting the commercial vehicle first, they had the private vehicle. Let's use the council president's Ford Fusion as an example.
No, I want to go to Sprinter van too. Because the chief's shaking his head because he knows it's coming.
We-
It's the new wave.
And we have in the past also had like Jets and Giants lettered up Sprinter vans,
Correct.
personally owned, parked in driveways. And that goes back to when I was still on the road. And there were a number of those. They used them on the weekends as,
Correct.
Tailgating vehicles and stuff. And they were not commercially registered. They were personally owned. They were former commercial vehicles that they converted. There were a number of those in town for a while.
All right.
So so Jets and Giants, or, if you are a car enthusiast and you have, you see sponsorship, whether it's a parts company on the
Which law
side,
firm? I can make you laugh.
what prevents you, or, are we regulating taste at that point, or are we regulating, commercial vehicles?
Well, the intent's to only have one, right, to not have more than one on the property.
Correct.
So if I have according to this ordinance, if I have a commercial vehicle, it's Mark DeCarlo's Landscaping, and it's a commercial vehicle, I'm allowed one, but that's only based on the fact that it has a commercial registration. But I go out and buy two of these now, but one has a commercial plate and one just does not have a commercial plate, and the neighbors are upset about that now, because essentially I really have a commercial vehicle, it's just not one under definition because it's defined by a registration
And size,
and size.
and size.
But I have the same exact thing, except one has a commercial registration on it and one doesn't. They're all lettered, it's this big, that's what I'm asking, is this building in an exception for someone because
Well, if I remember what the council president said, he suggested that once you have a business, you have to get commercial plates.
But that doesn't mean everybody abides by the law.
exactly.
But then aren't you to a DOT violation and not a local zoning violation?
I think the chief, people do it all the time, right? We letter up our trucks and don't make them commercial, even though the law says we have to, but you can't do anything about it. It's a motor vehicle infraction, right? It's not-
They're
not-
stopped when they're driving on the road, but not.
What's that?
They're stopped when they're driving on the road, if that's observed, because it goes both ways. We have commercial vehicles that don't have any lettering, and we have lettered vehicles that don't have commercial registration. Yeah. They're stopped as a matter of just general law enforcement, so.
Can I ask you a question, and Mr. Burgess too as well? We have a lot of these issues right now in town, and is there going to be an exemption for things that pre-exist with this, or are they going to have to go spend hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars to go put in 6-foot shrubs 18 feet long? That's the issue I have.
Again, that's a zoning.
That's a zoning
and code
thing, right.
enforcement thing, yeah.
So, have we considered that?
Like a grandfather?
Yeah, like a grandfather thing, and has it happened before? And I think, to Mike's point, how many, you do open up Pandora's box, but again, here's legislation
Well, let's see
and
how many,
zoning.
let's see how many
Michael?
complaints he's got.
Thank you very much for taking the words right out of my mouth. If it's not an issue, if we don't have all these complaints over the years, we're really, again, spinning wheels.
I do want to suggest you check with zoning also.
You know.
Yeah, I can check with us,
Yeah.
but sometimes zoning gets those direct.
Mr. DeCarlo, Mr. Mayor, can Mr. DeCarlo check with the zoning officer to see how many complaints he's gotten on this?
I mean, the thing is, you can put in legislation with all good intent, right? We all want to have a nice community and be good to our neighbors, but sometimes we, over legislate, and that's not our
All right,
our business,
let's-
because we have to have someone enforce it, which just adds a lot of issues, and we might not need more. Sometimes less is better.
Let's wait for Mr. Chief Calamari's response back and the zoning officer's response back, and we'll discuss it at the next meeting, if that's okay with everybody.
Do residents need to register their boats in town, like that they own a boat?
I don't believe so.
No.
Because how many people do we have that have a boat over 18 feet?
I can tell you, when I walk my dog, there's 4, because now I'm counting to see how long they are. And there's 2 on major roads, 2 that are set back. We have 1 on a side lawn, and we have another one. We have two in the backyard. And they haven't moved in years. So there's plenty of boats, but I don't think there are complaints. So
Well, let's see what we got and we'll go from there.
again, we're not like a shore community. I understand if it's a shore community,
Yeah.
that's one issue because everyone has them. But we have the mighty Lake Schlegel, and it's not really used often. So.
All right.
Council President, I don't want to extend your meeting. I know you've got a big agenda. If you don't mind, Council, if the 18 feet is too short, and I don't want to put you on the spot, would you have a recommended number of boat length?
Nobody put me on the spot. I mean,
No,
but
no.
that's all
Well,
right.
that's
I mean,
why I'm asking, do we have a count or people register their boats so we have an idea of what size boats are in town?
they're only registered with the state.
Is it
And a
possible
lot
to
of-
get that information?
In town, probably, I don't think so. That's almost impossible. You'd have to go through every registered boat.
A DMV search, it would have to be what's called an offline DMV
To
search.
see what,
And those are, as
Because
far
I
as I know, only
imagine-
done for criminal purposes, not for general fact finding.
I don't own a boat, but I imagine that if you were in the market for one, you're gonna base it on where you store it, right? And if you only have X number of feet in your own home, and that might determine what size boat you get.
I think anything over 18 feet, you're going to store at a marina because it's a fairly large size boat, right? Councilman
do-
Gaffney?
It's 18 feet is
No,
not.
I'm saying over 18 foot, you're going to store at a,
What's a pontoon boat?
If the pontoon boat's probably about 20 plus feet easy, and you see them all over the place, especially along the lake. I know there's one on Ridgewood Road. I mean, that's at least 25, easy, right on the main drag. And it's there all the time. You know what I'm talking about on the bend there. I don't know the person's name, but you know where it is. You can't miss it. There's a big boat in front of your yard. But I wouldn't know. I don't know it's appropriate.
all right, let's table it until we get the response from the chief and from the zoning officer. How many complaints we've gotten in the last 5 years regarding the subject, and we'll bring it back. We'll talk about it again, Mr. Lyden. Thank you for your
Okay.
time, chief. Thank
I
you.
should have that by tomorrow. I'll get it to the mayor and the administrator, and they can forward it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is mayor's appointments.
Yes, thank you. Just like to make a couple of quick comments before I get into the appointments. I hope everyone stayed safe in the snow. Fortunately, it fell on a Sunday night when Monday was a holiday for many people. And DPW did their usual great job, especially operating in the tents that they're operating out of. Second is, it was disheartening, I'll say, that the administrator's report got moved to the conference session as opposed to where the code says it should be, without any warning or any reason given. With that, I do have a couple of appointments this evening. One is for the Advisory Board of Health member. Please be advised that I'm appointing the following citizen for the position set forth below. Advisory Board of Health, Daisy Velez, term expiring December 31st, 2027. And then Office of Emergency Management Deputy Coordinator to Clayton Kenny, term expiring December 31st, 2027. Want me to go into the other one, Mike, that needs
Yes.
consent? Okay. And then Township Planner, Joe Burgess of Burgess Associates, Inc., term expiring December 31st, 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council resolutions relating to certain appointments. Resolution number 25-102, authorize award of contract for Township Planner Joe Burgess, PP, AICP, Burgess Associates, Inc. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Casio,
Yes.
Councilman Sears,
Yes.
Councilman Oman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez,
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, quick question. Is there a reason we didn't do the same appointment like we just did for Mr. Burgess for all our other professionals?
It
Because
has,
I know in the years past, we've always done it for all the professionals.
it has been determined that those appointments do not need council approval.
Who made that determination?
Myself and the attorney.
Okay. Counselor, I have a question for you, and maybe you can answer this for me. And this reflects no disrespect on the member of the Board of Health, but Ms. Velez is on the council. When I was on the Board of Health, and they asked me to be on the council, I was told by the former counselor that I had to resign my position. So again, it's not the member, it's the position. Is that true, and what's your comment on that?
I would have to look into
You'd have to
that.
look
I don't know.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just as a follow-up, so understanding that others may not require it, why does this particular one require?
I'd rather let the attorney answer that because she came up with the reason.
Yeah, it's just in line with the administrative code. There are certain other professionals that are appointed by the director with the approval of the mayor within certain budgetary constraints. For example, bond counsel. That's a special counsel. Under our Faulkner form of government and our administrative code, any type of special legal counsel is appointed by the director of law with approval of the mayor within budgetary, abilities. Same thing, I think it was labor counsel, may have been another appointment. Again, that's a lawyer. So under our Faulkner form of government, administrative code, that's how that goes. So it's really bringing it more in line with really how our form of government is constructed.
So I did, just for fun and games, Rivervale, which has the same form of Faulkner government, did all their appointments like we previously used to do.
Yeah,
Is that just a belt and suspenders, or,
maybe, yeah.
because I know your predecessor would always, I would believe he's the one that would put them on the agenda, right, Mr. Mayor? I don't know if it was you or him, but we've always done them every year I've been on the dais. And now all of a sudden this year we didn't do them except for a few certain ones, so it's a little different, that's all.
Yes, since we have a new attorney, and attorneys can certainly see things differently, I asked her opinion on many of the appointments, and this is what was decided on.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've looked at the cases too. It's pretty important to follow what your administrative code says. And
I was just curious, because if you look at Rivervale did a resolution for every one of their professionals like we used to previously up until this year. So, and they have the same exact Faulkner form of government.
are they Faulkner mayor counts?
Yeah, they're exactly, they're like our identical twin, the two big, the two Faulkners of Bergen County. So, all right, general public comment, motion to open the public comment period. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Would anybody like to come up at this time and address the council? Good evening, Mr. Scuderi.
Good evening. My name is Dan Scuderi, 536 Colonial Boulevard. Good evening, Mayor Calamari, council members. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dan Scuderi. I'm the Director of DPW, Superintendent of Recreation for the Township of Washington. Most importantly, I've been a resident for 25 years. I am here this evening to express the necessity of a new DPW building. As we all know, the members of the DPW department have been without a building for approximately 4 years now. Council discussions at the January 6, 2025 meeting left me to believe that the DPW building project may be delayed pending the unknown expense that will be associated with the hazardous remediation cleanup at the old swim club property. It's my opinion that delaying this project any longer will only lead to increased construction costs and may give way to another township project taking priority. A DPW building is extremely important to maintain efficient operations. A secure structure which protects our employees and equipment from weather-related adversities is not a luxury. However, it should be considered a bare minimum. Currently, the DPW employees are working out of an open tent in a confined yard. I am sure that all of us agree that DPW employees are hardworking and are deserving of a new building, but I also understand that the council must be physically responsible to the residents as it pertains to property taxes. However, I am asking the council to make the decision to fully fund a new DPW building and a yard in order to support our DPW employees, providing the best quality services to the residents. Let's give our DPW employees a new home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scuderi. Would anybody else like to come up at this time? Good evening.
Good evening. Kevin Burns, 415 Beach Street, Washington Township.
Good evening, Mr.
Good
Burns.
evening, Mr. Mayor, council, and everyone in attendance. I'd like to thank the DPW for the great job they did on the cleanup last night. Regarding proposed ordinance 2502, commercial vehicles, who's going to enforce it? I heard Chief Calamari said zoning. So it would be the zoning of the police department.
I believe he said it was the zoning, right? Mr. DeCarlo, right, was the intent of the chief?
Miss Bailey, I think
Yes.
that's what we said.
Oh,
The word
yes.
says, yeah, because it was a zoning violation rather than an enforcement for the police department.
Who's currently responsible for enforcing commercial vehicles? Zoning and police department.
I believe it's a zoning code. It's 330, right? So it's a zoning code.
330 is not zoning, so I'd have to look and see who is responsible to enforce that section of the ordinance.
Mr. Burns, are you referencing commercial vehicles parked on private property or in the street?
Could be in the street as well, township roadways.
So I think that's what we're differentiating between tonight. So what was discussed in the ordinance tonight is regarding commercial vehicles and boats and trailers and RVs and motorhomes parked on private property. That's why the zoning officer would be the appropriate enforcement.
So commercial vehicles currently parked in roadways.
So I don't have that ordinance in front of me, so I don't want to speak for it, but public roadways would be different than the private property.
Who's in charge of enforcing that?
Well, that's what I don't have, but I would assume it would be the police department, but I don't have that in front of me.
Give us 1 second, Mr. Burns. Ms. Bailey's looking it up.
According to roadways, public and private, or police, or enforced by the police. Even though we have the two private.
Police
roads.
department.
Police Department, Mr. DeCarlo.
Yeah.
Police department. Commercial vehicles during prohibited hours. Who's in charge of enforcing that? Zoning or police department?
Police Department. That's
Police. So hypothetically, a commercial vehicle might have writing on it, commercial tags, either say too long, too high, overweight. Who's responsible for enforcing that? And should that be allowed to park in the street at any time if it violates the ordinance?
That's something that's,
I'm looking parking of commercial vehicles in residential areas right now. I'll take a look and see. I'm sorry, what was the question, sir?
Who's responsible for enforcing commercial vehicles parking in the street?
That would be the police department.
All right. 23-27-1, no commercial vehicle shall be at any time in a public roadway unless it's actively engaged in providing that service. Who's enforcing that?
excuse me?
223-27-1.
223, you said,
Yep.
Mr. Burns? 271.
I've been told by a council member that that's a neighbor dispute.
I don't have a result on that. Let me check. 223-271, you're saying is the
Yes.
ordinance? I'm not finding that ordinance. Perhaps you,
Maybe I wrote it down wrong.
yeah.
33-7, no, any commercial vehicle parked in the residential zone.
I don't think there's a 33-7. Check. Okay. This has to do with the fire department, to be eligible for benefits. I don't think that's.
You just scroll down a little bit, you might, I might have just taken the wrong thing, but it says about commercial vehicles in a residential zone.
Okay, that's all in chapter 330. So let's go to that and see if I can find it for you there.
Something else.
Okay, so 330-7, 330-8, these are all,
All violations and penalties
yeah,
for commercial vehicles, all 330-7.
right,
Any. And they're all to be done by the police department, correct?
yes.
Interesting. So if we come out with the new ordinance, is it going to be enforced the same way? Or again, that goes to the zoning board?
Well, 330-7 and 330-8 are used, Ms. Gelli, are for vehicles parked in the public right of way, right? Not on public, on private property.
Well, in residential areas.
Yeah. That would be the right of way, right? Like the streets, right? Not private property, is it?
I would have to double check, just give me a minute. Lands of other, whether publicly or privately owned.
Also, right now, it's both. Right now, the police department does both, Mr.
And if you
Mayor.
look up the definitions, that's correct.
So we'll have to talk to Mr. Lyden about who would be responsible, because right now, our current ordinance, the police department's responsible for both public and private property.
And if it's flying under the radar,
I don't understand what you mean by that.
it's happening and
I know,
over and
but
over again. Clearly, it violates the laws. There seems to be maybe some miscommunication about who's enforcing what and whether it's being enforced.
is that something we can look into, Mr. DeCarlo? Mr. Mayor, since that's an administration.
Yeah, what I'd like to do is maybe get the chief and the code enforcement official in the same room for a meeting and hash this
So
out.
right now, it's being passed off, I believe, as a neighborly dispute, when it's clearly not.
Okay,
It's quality of life, there's other things that go with it. There's state laws, diesel, idling, take your pick. It all seems to be, I don't know, misplaced somewhere along the line. I thank you all for your time, I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Would anybody else like to come up? Yes, Mr. Stickle.
Bob Stickle, 191 Walnut Street, Washington Township. And I may be wrong because I couldn't get a copy of that 25-02, but
There's a copy up here if you'd like.
I'm not going to waste time reading it now.
But when, before you.
Just correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. But something about planting bushes 6 feet high. So my driveway is 27 feet. So if you had an 18-foot pickup truck, do we really want people in a 27-foot driveway have 6-foot high shrubs? They go out 18 feet and then now we're 9 feet from the street. I think that's a real safety hazard. This ordinance is on the book for commercial vehicles. The only thing it looks like they want to change is putting bushes on. Also, you're not allowed to have anything within 3 feet of a right-of-way higher than 2.5 feet. If you live on a corner, it's 23 feet. Just to correct the gentleman, you made a statement, F-150 with a crew cab, which is 4 doors, is now 19 feet. So you can even have a pickup truck in your driveway at 18 feet. The regular length of the small Ford van, they don't make minivans anymore, cargo vans, nobody makes them, they stopped making, that's 18.25. So that's your standard plumber's van. If you have the long one, it's 19.7 feet, and if it's extra long, it's 22.5 feet. So basically, if we keep this at 18 feet, or put this bush thing in, there's not a commercial vehicle that's going to fit this ordinance. And I think
That's what I was worried about.
And I think that's what they're trying to do. Meanwhile, I could have an RV the size of a bus, which I'll never own because they're probably about $600,000, but I could have that in my driveway and nobody has a problem with that. So I think we got to be very careful on, this is going to be very hard to enforce. You know? And I've lived in town 20 years and been parking the same size vehicle in my driveway for 20 years. So it's kind of difficult when you got to be up in Massachusetts, 8 o'clock in the morning, leaving at 4 to drive a half hour to work or back, or after finishing the Little League CPR at 10 o'clock to drive to Fairfield to drop off my truck after you volunteered your time to come back home. So I think we put too many ordinances in this town on the books, and they're impossible the size of this town to enforce. I mean, you have 2 or 3 police officers writing tickets all night long and not doing anything else. So, and there's probably a lot more things, violations for our code officer that's more important, run down homes in town and everything else than a plumber having his pickup truck in the driveway trying to make a living. So that's all I have to say on that. My wife asked me to say that the next TANAC meeting is going to be in person. They no longer can do Zoom meetings, but that's January 22nd. If anyone's interested, down in Minocqui Avenue in Teterboro. There was a thing that was just out on YouTube about 2 or 3 planes going into Teterboro. They were supposed to be coming in at 2,000 feet. The pilot was coming in at 4,000 feet. Didn't even know the call letters on his plane. And the tower in Newark asked him what he was doing. And probably just missed the collision. I don't know if it was over our town. It was going into runway 24.
Well, it must have been one the other night, but it was low.
This is getting to be serious. The control tower in Newark actually said to the pilot, "Why aren't you listening to me? You're at 4,000 feet. You're supposed to be at 2,000 feet." So I think we need to take a little bit more look at this before we have 2 planes collide over our town, over a school or something, and kill a lot of innocent people. So it was a little scary listening to it. The pilot just didn't even know what the call letters were on his plane.
That's
686 instead of 636, and just was completely disregarding the air traffic control. And it was all been put up on YouTube. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Sippy.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to come up? Seeing no one, motion to close the public portion of the meeting?
No questions?
What's up?
No questions from the public?
No, there is no public.
Oh, okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ordinances, adoption, second reading. Ordinance number 25-01, ordinance providing for the improvement of Coolidge Avenue in and by the Township of Washington in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, and appropriating $190,050, therefore constituting proceeds of a grant from the New Jersey Department of Transportation. Resolution number 25-103, authorize second reading and opening a public hearing for ordinance 25-01. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is this a matching grant or we got free money?
Essentially, yes, it's a New Jersey DOT grant money. It'll be
It's a local aid grant, correct, Mr.?
full. I'm sorry?
It's a local aid grant, right?
Yes.
Any other questions, Mr. Holman? Anybody else? Roll call?
Councilman Casio,
Yes.
Councilman DeSena,
Yes.
Councilman Sears,
Yes.
Councilman Oman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez.
Yes.
Motion to close public hearing for ordinance 25-01. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Casio,
Yes.
Councilman Sears,
Yes.
Councilman Oman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez,
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Motion to adopt ordinance number 25-01 at second reading by title. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Sears,
Yes.
Councilman Oman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez,
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Ordinance number 25-03, an ordinance correcting ordinance 24-15, implementing goals and objectives of the Township of Washington 2019 Master Plan Reexamination Report. Resolution number 25-104, authorize second reading and opening a public hearing for ordinance 2503. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Would anybody like to discuss this in the audience or on the dais? Seeing no one, roll call.
Councilman Casio,
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilman Oman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez,
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Motion to close public hearing for ordinance 25-03.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Casio,
Yes.
Councilman Sears,
Yes.
Councilman Oman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez,
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Motion to adopt ordinance number 25-03 at second reading by title.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Casio,
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilman Oman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez,
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Introduction, first reading, none. Individual resolutions. Resolution number 25-146, authorize 2024 transfer of appropriations, $3,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just had one question. I don't know if Mr. DiCarlo had a chance to review my inquiry from earlier. I don't know, with the balance.
Yes, sir.
residual balance?
Yes, I have a response. Mr. Ullman emailed me this morning the following question. After accounting for the proposed transfer of $3,000 from account number blah, 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 health benefits, how much remains in the account to support further transfers if needed? The health benefits line after this reduction of $3,000 will have a balance of $14,846.64. Additionally, I can't promise, but I'm not expecting any more transfers. It's really just the utilities companies that it was hard to estimate when doing the budget. So I'm happy to say there was no discretionary spending or discretionary account lines that we overexpended or had the need for a transfer. It was really just the utilities. But the answer to the question, $14,846.64. Addition is account number, blah, blah, blah. Health benefits, the only budgeting line available to support shortfalls. No, there are a few more that we were able to pull from if needed from the 2024 budget. Do any other accounts have an excess of $10,000 available to support transfers for shortfalls? The answer is yes. And then I think Mr. Ullman may have asked me to identify them. So these are just control lines. These aren't individual account lines, but the police salary and wages has more than $10,000. Police dispatching salary and wages has more than $10,000. DPW other expenses has more than $10,000. And then state expenditures for police and fire retirement system has a little bit more than $10,000. There are a few additional control accounts that have more than $10,000, but we haven't paid all of the outstanding invoices that are expected to come in for 2024. Hopefully that answers your question, sir.
Thank you very much.
Roll call.
Councilman Casio,
Yes.
Councilman Sears,
Yes.
Councilman Ullman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez,
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Resolutions, consent agenda. The following items have been determined to have the unanimous consent of the council will be enacted in one motion. Should any item require independent consideration, any council member may have such item removed from the consent agenda. Does anyone have any resolutions to be removed from the consent agenda for discussion?
Yes. 132, please.
You'd like 132 removed?
Yeah, just to discuss, that's fine.
Anything else?
147.
147?
Excuse me. 147, yes, please.
Thank you. Any others?
Explanation of 148, please.
You want to do 148 also? Okay. Resolution 25-105, authorize refund of escrow funds, block 3304, lot 25, in the amount not to exceed $140. Resolution number 25-108, authorize refund of escrow funds, block 1404.01, lot 3, in the amount not to exceed $1,000. Resolution number 25-109, authorize refund of escrow funds, block 1103, lot 4, in the amount not to exceed $620. Resolution number 25-149, authorize the police department to participate in the Defense Logistics Agency Law Enforcement Support Office 1033 program. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Casio,
Yes.
Councilman Sears,
Yes.
Councilman Ullman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez,
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Resolution number 25-132, authorize entry into a developer's agreement with Cohen Development Group LLC. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Mr. DiCarlo and the attorney, is this everything that we agreed on previously with this agreement with past councils? Is there any additions, addendums, provisions that you are aware of?
It is based upon Mr. Pollard's form developer agreement with my recommended add-ons based upon my experience in drafting developers agreements.
And
Also consultation with risk manager to check the insurance requirements. And obviously Mr. Azalina to establish the appropriate bonding requirements.
are there any major, what were the major revisions that, if you can recall?
I wouldn't even say there's any major revisions. Stylistic, adding additional language here and there that I believe beefs up the topic that's already been there.
Okay.
That type of stylistic thing.
It doesn't alter the hard data.
Our risk manager, sorry,
No,
Dr.
no, it's okay.
I thought you were done.
I say hard data, the agreements that we talked about prior.
No,
Okay.
no.
Our risk manager agreed to the reduction in insurance, or we kept it as is?
The risk manager provided recommended coverage amounts, and they're within those
Okay,
parameters.
thank you.
Yes.
Any other discussion on this?
I have no other problem if that's all it was, language changes.
Roll call?
Councilman Casio,
Yes.
Councilman Sears,
Yes.
Councilman Oman,
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez,
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Resolution number 25-147, authorized cancellation of general capital fund ordinances. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, I just had a couple of questions. So first, thank you. In terms of just the strategy, the reason why we're now canceling these, I mean, I think it's a good idea. I know, as recently as our last meeting, there was a hesitancy to cancel these. I think they were viewed as a source of funds for certain expenses. So just in general, to change, to approve these or to move forward with these. Second question is, and I know the year-end 2023 audit won't have current, won't necessarily align with this, but we haven't canceled all balances in these ordinances. Is that correct?
Yes, essentially that is correct. So once, hopefully this is approved this evening, we'll have the CFO make the changes this week. And then in preparation of the 2025 budget, council will receive reports similar to what you received last year during the budget. So that will identify what capital lines are still open and have a balance. Your first question, it wasn't a decision to change our minds. But what I just want council to understand is, I inherited, a lot of projects that need to be done, a lot of projects that need to be initiated and completed. And I utilized the funding sources that we had available and that were appropriate. And also notified or informed councils over the last few years during budget or capital discussions that I would be utilizing them. And then as promised, even before you had requested, I was conducting reviews and overhauls of the capital lines to see what could be closed out. This resolution this evening actually concludes, and I'm happy to say concludes the review. We've been able to pay all outstanding bills for our professionals. So like in Ordinance 1306, where we were paying an engineer service for the resurfacing, inspection, and engineering services for Calvin last year. Now I feel comfortable closing out that ordinance and its balance. So a lot of these ordinances had open purchase orders. So I'm happy to say not only are we complete with our review and recommendations, but we've now completed a lot of projects. Some of them several years old. Some of them were funds that were owed to us from DOT, and we had to utilize funds to pay engineers dating back to 2017 to do all the paperwork and documents that were needed to get us our ultimate reimbursement. So it's really not a change in mind. It's just circumstances have now presented themselves where we can close these out. So if you see that there's 4 different columns. So if we go down to, say, a 23 ordinance, there is parts of that 2308 ordinance that will have to be funded because we were authorized to borrow, but we didn't borrow yet. But out of all the different projects that were funded or allowed to be bonded in ordinance 2308, some of these had balances. So that's what we're closing off. So you'll see in that column for deferred charges unfunded just means we're lowering by $303,730.85 how much we would have to borrow by canceling those ordinances. In the column for fund balance, that's how I funded the resurfacing of Calvin Street last year. So it was funded with some capital fund balance, and it was also funded with a New Jersey DOT grant. The project wasn't as expensive as we thought, so we'll be able to put $53,177.84 back into our capital fund balance. That's actual money. Reserve for payment of debt, that means those ordinances that were closed were ordinances that we actually borrowed money for. So $162,186.02 was money that was previously borrowed that's no longer needed. That's going to go into our general ledger for reserve for payment of debt. And then the last column is capital grants receivable. That really just takes a grant receivable off of our grants receivable list of $47,741.91. So that really just means we anticipated utilizing that much more money in the project, that $47,700, but we didn't. So it's not really found money. It's not lost money either. It just cleans up our books a little bit. So progress. It's good progress.
May I just ask one additional question?
Sure.
On the reserve for payment of debt, is that 162 going to be available in the 2025 budget year?
Yes, so the anticipated strategy is, and again, I'm just using numbers, these aren't exact numbers, but in the current budget, we will have an account line for debt and an account line for interest. So in the debt line, if we need $500,000 to pay the bank this year, I will ask for $5,000 in the budget. I have to raise the $500,000. But on the revenue side, I can introduce, this is just a number, $250,000 from the general ledger to offset that $500,000. So taxation's really $250,000, not $500,000. So the strategy would be to introduce a certain amount, which I don't have off the top of my head, as a revenue to offset the taxation for the payment of debt in the current budget.
Okay, so on the expense side, it'll be gross, the 500,000.
Yes.
On the revenue side, we'll
Whatever the amount.
tax the net. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else on 147? Roll call?
Councilman Calcio.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilman Oman.
Yes.
Councilman Velez.
Yes.
Council President DeSenio.
Yes. Resolution number 25-148, authorizing support participation in the Sustainable Jersey Municipal Certification Program. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes. Can you explain to me what this is?
Every year we put it on for you. That's all.
Oh, this is the yearly certification for the
Yep.
green team. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope, that's perfect. Thank
Roll
you.
call?
Councilman Calcio.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilman Oman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez.
Yes.
Council President DeSenio.
Yes. Adjournment to conference agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next meeting of the Township Council will be on February 3rd, 2025, beginning at 7 p.m. Sign up for Nixle. Text 07676 to 888-777, key code TWP Bergen. Okay, conference agenda for tonight. Under current business, we have the new DBW building. Mr. Mayor, Mr. DeCarlo?
Mark, did we get the number yet that the council president was looking for remediation of the swim club? I don't think so yet.
No, sir, we did not. The update though on that, I've talked to Mr. Rossi several times over the last couple of weeks. They're waiting for all the testing results to come back so they know how expansive or how reduced the contamination is, and then that'll lead to anticipated project cost.
Mr. Mayor, during your mayor's breakfasts, does the mayor of Old Tappan attend those meetings?
I'll say he's invited. I don't know if he will attend.
Would you and Mr. DiCarlo be able to discuss with him the 6-bay DPW building that they're currently building that was brought to them by the Mennonites? It's a beautiful building. It's on the corner. It's 6 bays. I know we're not getting a 6-bay building, but it's a prefabricated building that they had made. It looks beautiful. I have some pictures here for after the meeting I can show you really quick. But just to discuss with him what the costs of that were and so forth, just to get an idea, because it's a 2-story building, you know, prefabricated by, you know, it's got the construction name from the I don't want to insult the Mennonites, but I don't know how they brought it here or anything, but they built it and it looks beautiful. So
Okay.
maybe we could talk to Old Tappan and see how they got their 6-bay build. And it went up very quickly. It went up in weeks.
Okay. Yeah, and if he's not at the breakfast, I can certainly reach out to him afterwards.
Thank you.
However, you know, I would just like to add, we keep finding these things.
I'm
We
I
have
just
to
wanna-
draw a line in the sand at some point and say we're moving ahead with this project.
I'm not disagreeing. I just would like to get an update, you know, just to have an idea of how quickly they got it done. Because it seems this building went up in the matter of 2 months. Like I drove past it, it was an empty lot, and 2 months later, they got a full building up and it's ready for garage doors. So went up very quickly. So if that's something we could expedite, you know, based on his knowledge, I'd like to get them their building as soon as possible also.
Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
Can we just ask for clarity what, this is gonna come off wrong, I don't mean it disrespectfully, but what would the end game be? Would it be a different, you know, like?
Well, if we could call them tomorrow and order a 3-bay building, because we're getting 3 bays now,
Right.
that would fit our requirements and they could put it up in.
But what do we do with the architect that we're under contract for $160,000?
If you can get them a building, let's just say in months rather than a year or whatever.
But it would be with the same architectural design? That's what I don't
It's
understand.
similar. It's a similar looking build. It's not a brick and block building, but you can look at it when you get a chance. And I'm just curious for timeline because it literally was an empty site, and 2 months later, the building is completely up.
I don't know what I'd be asking.
No, we're not asking the architect of anything.
No, I understand.
We're just asking the mayor, like, what was the? I would like to know the construction costs and the schedule, like how quickly they got it.
Sure.
Maybe they've been, you know, building it for 2 years and we don't know that. That's what I'd like to find out.
Can you send those pictures to council?
I could forward them tomorrow, yes. I'll forward them to Sue and she'll get them to council.
And also to keep the project moving along and to Director Scuderi's comments, you know, they've been very patient, but it's time. So at the next meeting, I will have a capital ordinance looking for council to approve for the difference between what we already have for the DPW and the difference.
Thank you.
Let me ask a question or two. I know you've
As many as you like.
asked multiple times for questions and feedback, but just two. One, the existing emergency generator, is it sized to support that building, or would we need a new one?
I believe we need a new one for that building.
Okay.
Yes.
And is that part of the quote that?
Do you recall, Mark? I don't. I can certainly find out. I just don't recall.
If you don't mind me asking, what are you looking at?
Oh, this is
That's
something
not what
else.
we gave you?
No, this is something else.
I don't remember if it was on the, Mr. Beckmeyer's estimated cost. He was pretty all inclusive, but I don't remember if generator was on there, so.
Okay. The second question, actually, since you brought it up, I'll ask a third, but the second question is the, crapola, you made me forget it.
You could email Mr. DeCarlo in the morning like you normally do, right, Mr. Albert?
If you think of it in a minute, ask the council president. I'm sure he'll let you go back.
So the question, so what I have is the documentation from the emergency services building. And the question I had was, there were, at least the version I'm looking at, there were 42 change orders from the initial, salt was the question. I'll get back to it. There were 42 change orders at least as of the date of this report. And I was just wondering, would the architect, or have you looked at these change orders as they relate to that building to see if anything that was done or omitted or forgotten in the development of that building, has it been captured in the design here? So, this is not ancient history. This is a couple of years. The access control, for instance, there was a $20,000 line item. We changed it out and we went out separately for a $50,000 bid for access control. There were things like painting that wasn't included, or epoxy floors or things like that. So I just was wondering if he has this list, or if anyone has this list and looked at it and overlaid it to what we know we're looking to do. And then the last question is...
Can I answer that one while it's fresh on my mind? I will ask him if he has done that, if he would be so kind as to, if that's my copy.
Yeah, I'll forward it to you.
Okay.
I don't know if it's this. I
Well,
don't know if it's
in the
the final.
ballpark,
Yes,
so,
okay.
yeah. Mhm. Okay,
And
and if he hasn't, I'll certainly ask him to do so.
I mean, some of it is very site-specific, like the retaining wall,
Sure.
and I think they took some trees down, and so it's random, but
Okay.
some may apply.
Yes.
And then the last one, the salt shed is omitted from the designs at this point, and the expense?
It's in the site improvement line
It's in
item.
Beckmeyer's line,
That's
right?
back, yeah, because it's a separate structure than the building, and so it fell into site as opposed to the building.
But that's going to be captured as part of the ask.
Oh, yeah, we shared with you already the site improvement costs roughly, and that was on it.
That was included?
That was like 200,000 or so,
I
Mark?
think it was accounted for at 250.
250, okay.
All right,
But it's going to go out to bid as part of the project.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
that was it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Mr. DeCarlo, your administrator's report for January 6, 2025.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. This is my council response from the township meeting on January 6th. There was no resident concerns or questions to follow up on. There were several council questions. First one was Councilman DeSena had a question regarding Resolution 25-117, which was about the authorizing fixing the rate of interest for delinquent taxes. I spoke to our tax collector and informed that the interest rates are established by state statute, both interest rates that were referenced in that resolution.
Thank you.
Councilman Ullman inquired about our cash management plan as it pertains to our banking institution, which we have Valley Bank. On January 7th, 2025, I met with our finance team, which consists of our CFO, tax collector, and our purchasing agent. Unanimously, it was concluded that we do not recommend at this time changing our financial institution depository. In early spring 2024, the finance team did meet with representatives of another banking institution. The benefits provided to the township by Valley Bank proved to be better than the other offer. Potential higher interest rates offered by another bank were for an introductory period at best. Currently, the township receives a 4.1 interest rate. Additionally, with Valley Bank, there are no minimum balance fees, account analyzing fees, wire transfer fees, check stop fees, endorsement stop fees, check scanner fees, stop payment fees, or non-sufficient fund fees. The proximity of Valley Bank is beneficial as well, considering it's right next door to Town Hall. It makes conducting business more convenient. We have a well-established relationship with Valley Bank with an additional perk offered by Valley Bank, the use of their back parking lot to Town Hall employees when needed. Lastly, it has been expressed by Councilman Ullman, his desire for Township to conduct business with local establishments. That being said, Valley Bank has proven to be a great partner that does donate to functions within the township. So we're happy to continue our business with Valley Bank. Lastly, Councilman Ullman inquired as to why Beckmeyer Engineers' proposal for services related to resurfacing of a New Jersey DOT grant roadway is more costly than other roadways. I confirmed with Glenn Beckmeyer that roads resurfaced by using NJDOT grant funds require more work, such as design specs, inspections, and documentation during the process. Updates, a reminder to residents regarding the property tax reassessment. Appraisal Systems will be posting the locations of inspections on their website, which is www.asinj.com. You may also visit the website for information pertaining to the assessment. On February 12th, 2025, our tax assessor will be visiting with our seniors in the senior center at their monthly meeting to answer questions pertaining to the reassessment. Appraisal Systems informed me that fresh background checks were completed on all 8 inspectors with passing results. And additionally, later this week, the tax assessor will be meeting with myself, the mayor, and members of the police department to discuss the initiation of the inspections, and I will get that out to council once that date has been established. I gave you an update with the testing results we're waiting for the swim club. As far as the restabilization of the Musquaxing Brook, of course, the New Jersey DEP said our application needed some more information, so Boswell Engineering is working on that. And Council President, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinances, yes, Ms. Velez.
Mr. DeCarlo, if it's okay with the mayor, I'm sure it might be in your notes already. For the resident concerns for our next meeting, can you add Mr. Burns' concerns in regards to the enforcement?
Yes, it's already on my list. Thank you.
Thank you.
And can,
Yes, Mr. Carl.
first, thank you, Mr. DeCarlo, for responding. I guess I would say that asking about a lunch for $260 and a breakfast for $164 and suggesting that we try to keep that in town, I think has a different order of magnitude. Keep things in town where it's appropriate. However, when we're looking at balances, and the audit report doesn't have average daily balances, so it's difficult to determine what that is. But, we opened 22 and closed 23 with approximately $6 million in cash and 47 million passed through in terms of tax that has been collected and expenses related to that, among other items. So our average daily balance, I would imagine is significantly above the 6 million. We have general capital cash, and we also have trust funds or funds that are basically cash-based. So we have a lot of free cash that is in the bank. And, getting 5 or 10 bips would make a significant difference. I don't know if $25,000 in extra interest revenue is meaningful. To me, it is, which is why I asked that question. So I appreciate that, you've looked, and I appreciate your response. But, that's why I'm asking, or that's why I asked. But I would like to distinguish the difference between suggesting that if we are doing a breakfast or a lunch, that we use a township business and, for a couple $100 versus, a cash management plan that covers literally tens of millions of dollars. I think they are at opposite ends of the spectrum, and I would hope that we would use a different measurement than just that they're in town. Thank you.
Mr. DeCarlo, Mr. Mayor, can we add to the next current business, I'm getting a lot of complaints about zombie houses that we have on the books in town. There's like 3 or 4 of them that are, very talked about. So if we can maybe discuss how we can get these, get them on the on the violations list and get them taken care of?
Yeah, we'll discuss that with the code enforcement officer when we sit him and the chief down to discuss the other concerns.
I'm sure you've seen what I've seen, and there's a bunch of them. There's 2 by the lake, there's a couple, so. Under ordinances and legislation, tree ordinance 23-17, chapter 465, tree replacement alternative, fee per tree removal. Mr. DeCarlo, Mr. Mayor?
Council President, do you mind if I just go back to your request for the zombie houses?
Yes.
If you do know of any specific ones, if you could privately email me.
Yeah, maybe
You're probably definitely talking to one on Chestnut.
Yeah, that's one of them. There's 2 others.
Yeah, our code enforcement officer has been working diligently to try and find who is responsible. And you would think it would be an easy task, and it's proving to be nothing but opposite of that. The taxes are being paid, and we're running into a total roadblock.
So somebody's paying the taxes, but no.
Somebody's paying the taxes, and we consulted with the tax collector, and because it's a third party, we cannot figure out who it is. I saw that our code enforcement officer actually this morning emailed an additional person to try and figure it out. As far as, I would say, probably would say it was in 23 when our code enforcement officer handled like 6 or 7 zombie houses, some of which were the ones at the intersection at 660 Pascack that we got taken down. One of which is the property that the township's trying to acquire on Pascack Road, and there was a few others. So if there's any specific, it's probably a good chance we're already addressing it, but I can double check.
All right, maybe
I'll get you an update on the ones that we already.
Can we maybe just at the next meeting just I give out the address of the ones we're looking into or the ones who have violations, so this way the residents know that nobody's saying nobody's not doing their job, but you just look at the house for all these years and nothing's happening, so you're like, well, how could it go on this long when we have all these ordinances on the books? So
I understand.
maybe we just address it and say, listen, like you just did, you said, hey, somebody's paying the taxes, but that's not the person that's responsible.
I'll bring in a report, and like I said, in the meantime, if you could send me something specific.
We can discuss it offline tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
So for the tree removal ordinance, chapter 465.
Yes, this actually was identified because of something Mr. Azzolina was working on with the planning board. And as many times as we've revised this ordinance or it's been read by council members, myself, whatever, we never put in the actual amount. So I provided to council a copy and paste of the section of the ordinance for ordinance 2317, chapter 465 trees. It literally says pay a fee of, parenthesis, amount to be set by municipality, parenthesis. We never did that, and based on my discussions with Councilman Sears, part of the Green Team, Mr. Sabino, and Paul Azzolino, who dealt with an applicant that needed to do some replacing, the recommendation is $350 per tree. So if council's good with that, we will present to council at the next meeting a revised ordinance.
I'm okay with 350.
Reflecting that.
Yeah, we've gone through Rutgers University. We've talked to some of the
I believe the ordinance
down there.
the town where we stole it from was 350 way back when, so that's a good number.
So we've worked with Rutgers. Mr. Scuderi and I have multiple classes down in Rutgers in tree maintenance and tree cleaning. We also talked to our arborists, and 350 is the minimum that you can get a tree right now.
Yeah. So if it's the minimum, should we ask for more? I mean,
I would like to, but I don't want to push the envelope on builders right now, especially with the economy the way it is. I think that that's a good start.
the economy's changing. We heard it today.
Well, thank you.
So, things are going to be great.
Again, I can do 400.
What does the council want to do, 400 then?
Well, so my question, it sounds like Tom did research with Mr. DeCarlo, but, do we have, we've replaced, Amoroso did work for us. They're doing work for us on a regular basis. What does it cost them on average when they plan for us?
400. He gives us a break. It's about costing 400. With the mulch, the digging, the planting.
So
Yes.
So split the difference.
What do you want to go, 375?
I'd do 400.
Just do 400 and call it a day. I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Straw poll for 400 for the next.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I guess the question is, this is for someone that does not want to replace the tree?
Goes into the bank, yeah.
Yeah, so it's into the tree bank.
It goes into the tree bank. But if they replace the tree on their own,
That's,
it's nothing.
that's,
And this has nothing to do with the permit fee to
No.
remove.
no, no,
Okay, fine. Because I know the permit fees are, I know we put those in place somewhere.
yeah,
With
they're in
a,
place.
with a fee, but, if this is the alternative and a resident or a builder wishes to, not replace, I'm okay with it. So I'd rather have a tree there instead of
Yeah.
I'd rather have the green on the property than the green in our bank, but.
I'd rather have this
We-
ordinance that at
we
least gets
have,
us something for it,
Of
because right
course,
now,
of course.
people are clear
That
cutting
tree
without.
bank has added a lot of trees to this community.
Okay, and those, again, that's specifically for, my mic's not on, that's terrible. That's specifically for trees that we are going to put in another location.
Right.
That's what it's going towards, right? Okay. Yeah,
Everybody okay with 400?
From Sherry? Not Sherry. Where did you put it?
Clark, Sherry,
Sherry, what's Sherry?
by the
Ms. Maloney, you
bridge,
okay with 400?
Gardner.
Mr. Sears, you okay with 400?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Cassio, you okay with 400?
I'm okay.
Mr. Alman, you okay with 400?
yes,
I'm okay with 400. Mr. DeCarlo, can you have that for the next meeting?
Yes.
Thank you. We did the parking.'re going to wait for the chief and the zoning officer to give us more information on the parking and storage of boats, trailers, and commercial vehicles. Capital ordinance 23-16, land improvement, 464 Ridgewood Road.
Okay, please just give me a minute to explain this one, but, ultimately, I have a little bit of yolk on my face. When we received the reimbursement for the open space grant for the swim club, I had believed and I had told council that the funds to purchase the swim club was totally funded. I recently discovered when reviewing our schedule of unfunded ordinances that 22-1 acquisition of land for $463,084 was unfunded. So when I had given that information to the council, I told the council the options were that money that we received, the $438,000, I think that's off the top of my head, from the county would either go into capital fund balance or we could utilize that to fund a new ordinance, which turned out to be 23-16 for land improvement at 464 Ridgewood Road. The council ultimately decided to fund the new capital ordinance 23-16 for land improvement. We technically do not have that money in hand. When we received the reimbursement, it should have reduced the money that was future debt. So of that ordinance that we created, I have about $65,000 of it encumbered to pay the $75,000 proposal for Boswell Engineering that we're expecting to get back from that hazardous remediation. So technically, and if we do not wish to borrow that money, we should probably, once I get that money, close it out and return that money towards, to lower our future debt. Hopefully that makes sense. Or you can, advise me to keep it the way it is, but then we'd have to borrow that money. So technically that money is not there to utilize.
So we should have just paid it off like we originally, like some people asked for.
Not paid it off, but it should have, when we got that money, it should have just reduced, it should have gone towards ordinance 22-1, reducing the amount of debt that we would have to future borrow. So I'm not sure what the difference is between the 438 and the 463 off the top of my head, but I certainly will not encumber any other funds on that 438, and I'm fully confident we can be able to return that back to the full 438. So I guess what I'm asking the council is, do you want to leave it the way it is and eventually borrow that money when we do borrow, or do not spend any more money on that capital line and cancel that capital line out just like we did for those others, and it will just reduce the amount that we will have to borrow in the future?
I would reduce it.
Can we reduce it? Because this was brought up and I was against doing what we did. I wanted to just pay it and be done with it. And the dais made a decision to proceed with creating a new ordinance to use it for the proposed.
Yeah, but it was in 23, it was before you were on the council, that the council did that, made that decision. So I'm not, sorry, I mean, I don't mean to.
No, but like, there was, I was out in the dais.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I wasn't on the dais, but
Oh.
me and others wanted us to go toward the purchase price and reduce it. And we were, the dais voted to do what they did. So can we change that? I mean,
Well, again, you voted probably based on what I told you, Sue. You know, the council has my apologies. I fully understood it as being funded, and it is not funded. So, again, the money is not spent. I do have about 65,000 of the 438 encumbered. But, if your guidance is to cancel that out and restore it, I'll figure out if I can restore it other than, prior to waiting for the reimbursement of the grant. Hopefully that will be awarded. But, those would be the options.
When do you need a decision by, Mark?
You have my word, I'm not going to spend it. So, I don't need it today.
I really got to kind of think about the way I want to go with this right now, to be honest with you.
You're the one I didn't want to face the most because I specifically told you it was fun. So,
Mark, listen, we'll have disagreements. I give out some bad information too. And, we do make mistakes. It's all right. But I'd like a little time to think about this particular thing. So,
is that okay with everybody
Yeah.
to digest it a little bit now that we know the facts about it?
I'm in the mindset of if we have it, just pay it off and get rid of it. But, I just like to think about this one a little bit. Okay.
All right. My apologies again.
No problem.
Would it be okay just to, at a very high level, put that down in sort of writing? So it's like 2201, the 463, the 430, there's like 463, there's 438, and there's 2316, and then the 65.
Yes.
I'm not sure where all the numbers
I can do that.
all tie back into. but
It'll
that
probably
would be
read just as confusing as I said.
Yeah,
but
I
I'll
need
give
to get
I'll
Sky
give it
to
a
it,
shot.
please, if you wouldn't mind.
What'd you say?
If you can give it a
Can you
shot.
get Sky to it? Because
Yes.
it confuses me. I'd appreciate it. Mike, can I?
Very simply, if you tell me to cancel that ordinance 2316, it will reduce what we have to borrow by $438,000.
Okay. Mike, can I ask a question, which I just suspend the rules? Can I just go back real quick? I'm going to ask
You want
the
to suspend
mayor.
the rules?
Well, not really suspend. If you let me go back to just the conference agenda or the consent agenda, because I didn't turn the page and I didn't see that, the 1033. I know there was a list of items that are available, and I just wanted to ask the mayor or the administrator, was there anything on that sheet that the police department's looking for? In that 1033, did they mention anything to you? I know we're probably not gonna get the helicopter, I understand that,
Where are we gonna
or
put it?
or the non-lethal hand grenades.
It's out back. You didn't-
Oh, I didn't see, no, I missed it. I thought I saw something flying over there, but I was unsure. Was there anything that they
What do you
were
have, sir?
interested in?
Not that I know of off the top of my head.
Okay.
How about tow trucks?
What's that for?
We can use them at night to tow the cars that are parked in the
I
street.
should have known there was an angle.
Okay. I was just
You
wondering,
have
that's all.
you have responses?
What I would like to just add in is that resolution, not that particular one, but the title was the incorrect title at the last meeting. So we heard back from the state that they had to change the title. And along with it, this was a list that was provided by them, the 1033 program that must be attached to that resolution to be sent down.
I understand,
So it's not
okay.
like they're looking and picking and, from what I understand, picking and choosing. It's
Okay.
something that the state's
Not getting this from Amazon, okay.
Yeah.
Just a question, that's all. Thank you.
Council
All
President,
right. Yes, Mr. Sears.
may I just tailor on Councilwoman Velez's request about the overnight parking, that we leave personal names out of this and we don't put particular citizens in a bad position, that it will be a open, generic discussion with data that could be brought forth.
Oh, absolutely. I would-
Understood.
Yeah, yeah, it should be.
Numbers, no.
Yeah, just numbers, no
Yeah,
names. That's what we had asked for,
Thank you.
numbers, no names, yeah. Okay.
This is not addressing the extended exemption.
No helicopter.
No, no hands or names for graduation.
Under financials, seeing none, miscellaneous, amended 2025 council meeting schedule due to the change in the June primary date. Ms. Witkowski, you have some suggestions?
No, just go back to what we were gonna do in the beginning, go back to the first and the third Monday, since it's now moved to the second Tuesday. We just go on to our normal routine then. Then
Ms.
we
Wis-
advertise it as such, I have to then re-advertise those dates, if there's a change in the schedule.
So
It'll
the
be
primary's on the 10th,
correct,
and we would meet on the 2nd and the 16th.
yeah. I believe that's what the dates are on that paper that I gave you.
So the yellow is the amended.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Ms. Witkowski, can you answer, maybe you can answer this question. Do you know why they changed it?
I plead the fifth.
You plead the 5th. They just felt like moving it to the,
No, it's a Jewish holiday. That's what's been said, that it's a Jewish holiday, and the governor just wanted to change it.
Yeah.
But that's all I know. I know as much as what you read.
I didn't read anything, so I'm big on.
All right, so we're moving to June 2nd and June 16th as our new meeting dates for June, and you'll publish,
Yeah, I will
Well,
publish.
we'll publish that.
That, yes.
Okay. Closed session.
Thank you.
Resolution number 25-150, ambulance shared services, shared service agreement, 450 PASCAC, affordable housing litigation. The Township Council anticipates that it will not come out of closed session. Do I have a motion to enter into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's take a 5-minute recess. Oh.